My mother-in-law, Victoria Langston, raised her coffee cup with a slow, satisfied smile and said, "I'm flipping the family luxury property easy." The porcelain clinked lightly against the saucer, but the words hit harder than anything else in that room. I froze with my hand halfway to my own cup, the warmth suddenly meaningless against the cold that spread through my chest. We were sitting in the sunlit breakfast nook of her sprawling Connecticut estate, the kind of place where every detail whispered old money and quiet control. My name is Amelia Brooks Langston, and in that moment, I realized something was about to be taken from me that I hadn't even been warned was at risk. Victoria leaned back in her chair, perfectly composed, her tailored cream blazer untouched by the morning's humidity. She didn't look at me when she said it. She didn't need to. The comment wasn't meant for discussion. It was meant as a declaration. Across the table, my husband, Daniel Langston, shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. His silence was louder than her words. I set my cup down carefully, forcing my voice to stay even. "What property are you talking about?" Victoria finally turned her gaze toward me, her expression polite, but edged with something sharper. "The lake house, Amelia." The world seemed to narrow around that sentence. The lake house wasn't just property. It was the only place that had ever felt like mine since I married into this family. It was where Daniel and I had spent our first summer together before the pressure of his family name started to reshape everything. It was where I could breathe. "You can't be serious," I said, my voice quieter now but heavier. Victoria smiled again, that controlled, social smile she wore like armor. "It's a smart financial move." Daniel cleared his throat, finally speaking. "Mom's been talking to investors." I turned to him, searching his face for something that resembled partnership. Something that said this wasn't already decided. "And you didn't think to mention this to me?" He hesitated just long enough to answer the question without words. Victoria lifted her cup again, unfazed. "It's a family asset, Amelia." The phrase landed like a dismissal. I swallowed the immediate response that rose in my throat. Because if I reacted too quickly, too emotionally, I would prove exactly what she already believed about me. That I didn't belong in decisions like this. "That house is in Daniel's name," she continued smoothly. "And Daniel understands the long-term value of strategic decisions." The implication was clear. I was not part of that understanding. But she was wrong about one thing. That house was not just his. Not in the way she thought. I folded my hands together, steadying myself. "When were you planning to finalize this?" Victoria didn't miss a beat. "Within the next few weeks." A timeline already in motion. A decision already made. A future already rewritten without me. I looked at Daniel again, this time not searching but measuring. "Do you agree with this?" He exhaled slowly, avoiding direct eye contact. "It makes sense financially." The words felt rehearsed, detached. Like he had already stepped into the version of himself his mother expected him to be. I nodded once, more to myself than to either of them. Because in that moment, something shifted inside me. Not anger. Not yet. Something quieter. More deliberate. The kind of clarity that comes when a line has been crossed and cannot be uncrossed. Victoria placed her cup down again, satisfied. "I assumed you'd understand, Amelia." I stood up from the table slowly, smoothing the front of my dress. "I understand more than you think." She didn't ask what I meant. She didn't need to, because she believed the conversation was over. But for me, it had just begun. The drive back to the city was silent. Daniel kept both hands on the wheel, his focus fixed on the road as if concentration could erase what had just happened. I watched the passing trees blur together, my thoughts moving faster than the car itself. "You should have told me," I said finally. He sighed, the sound heavy with defensiveness. "It's not like we're losing anything." I turned toward him slowly. "That house matters to me." He tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "It's just a house, Amelia." The simplicity of his statement made something inside me fracture. Because it wasn't just a house. It was where I had tried to build something real in a life that often felt curated by someone else. "You don't get to decide what matters to me," I said quietly. He didn't respond. because there was no response that wouldn't expose how little he had considered me in any of this. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake replaying every moment, every word, every silence. And somewhere between midnight and morning, a memory surfaced that changed everything. The lake house, the closing day, the documents Daniel had signed, and the ones I had signed, because Victoria had been wrong about something critical. That house was not solely Daniel's. It never had been. The next morning, I sat at my desk and opened the file I hadn't looked at in over a year. The purchase agreement, the deed, the ownership structure. My heart steadied as I read through the lines carefully, because there it was. Clear. Unambiguous. Joint ownership. But not just that. A clause Daniel had insisted on at the time. A clause even he seemed to have forgotten. Any sale required both signatures. Not just his. Not his mother's influence. Both. Mine included. The realization didn't feel like victory. It felt like balance being restored. Later that afternoon, Victoria called. Her voice was bright, controlled, already moving forward with her plans. I've scheduled a meeting with the buyers next week. I leaned back in my chair, calm now in a way I hadn't been the day before. That won't be necessary. There was a pause on the other end of the line. A small one, but enough. I'm sorry. The house isn't being sold. Her tone shifted, just slightly. That's not your decision. I allowed a small breath before responding. It actually is. Another pause. Longer this time. Explain. I picked up the document on my desk, though I didn't need to read it again. I co-own the property, Victoria. Silence. Not confusion. Not disbelief. Something closer to recalculation. And the sale requires my approval. Her voice, when it returned, was tighter. Daniel agreed. I didn't. The simplicity of that answer carried more weight than any argument. This is a family decision, she said, her composure starting to thin. I am family, I replied evenly. The words landed with finality, because for the first time since I had married into that family, I wasn't asking for space. I was taking it. The meeting she had planned was canceled. The buyers disappeared. And for the first time, Victoria Langston had to acknowledge a boundary she couldn't simply override. Daniel confronted me that evening, frustration replacing the passivity he had worn before. You blindsided her. I looked at him steadily. No. I protected what's mine. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing slightly. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I stood up, matching his energy, but not his agitation. No, Daniel. I'm making it clear. He stopped pacing, turning toward me. This is going to cause problems. I met his gaze without hesitation. It already has. The truth settled between us, heavy and undeniable, because this had never been about a house. It had been about control, about voice, about whether I would continue to be a silent extension of his family or something else entirely. Weeks passed. The subject wasn't raised again, but the dynamic had changed. Subtly, permanently. Victoria's tone with me became more measured, less dismissive. Daniel became quieter, more cautious in his assumptions. And the lake house remained exactly where it was. Untouched. Unflipped. Ours. Not because I fought loudly. Not because I created chaos. But because I refused to disappear from a decision that was never meant to exclude me. And in doing so, I didn't just keep a house. I changed the terms of my place in that family.